What's going on, everyone? Today I'm going to be going through my thoughts on UFC 300 and whether it's as bad as people are making it seem. This is a pretty hot topic in the MMA community, so I figured I'd give my thoughts on it. So I broke down the fights that are currently booked and official into three categories: exciting, good, and confusing. So I'll start with the exciting fights. Justin Gaethje versus Max Holloway. This one really needs no explanation. Justin Gaethje coming off the head kick over Dustin Poirier. Holloway coming off the KO over Korean Zombie. They're both exciting, non-stop action. Gaethje's a highlight machine. Holloway, best boxer in the UFC. Makes perfect sense for the BMF belt, which I don't like, but it's fine. Great fight, though. Sarukian and Charles Oliveira. Charles Oliveira is never in a boring fight. It's going to be on the main card with Arman Sarukian, who's coming off the KO against Beneil Dariush, and his stock is at an all-time high. The winner of this fight most likely is getting Makhachev, so it's a top 5 fight with a lot of stakes. Sign me up. Yuri Prochazka and Alexander Rakic. I've seen some mixed reactions to this fight, but I like it. Yuri's never in a boring fight. I'm interested to see how Rakic looks coming off the injury against Jan Blachowicz. I like Rakic more than most. I think that's a 50-50 fight, which I think is an important part of this card. I don't want to know the outcome before I watch it. Next, Calvin Kattar and Aljamain Sterling. Love it. Great stylistic clash. Aljamain coming up to featherweight. Calvin Kattar's coming off an injury against Arnold Allen. I'm interested to see how Sterling deals with the power of Kattar and whether Sterling's weight and strength transfers over to featherweight. And Sodiq Yusuff and Diego Lopez. Round of applause to whoever booked this fight. Amazing stylistic clash. Diego Lopez on absolute roll. One of the more exciting young stars in the sport. Sodiq Yusuff coming off that tough loss to Edson Barboza, but I love this stylistic clash. Props to Sodiq for taking this fight. Talk about the good fights. Jim Miller, Bobby Green. I love it. Two OGs of the sport. Jim Miller, we've been talking about it for a while now, about him being on this card. Bobby Green, another OG of the sport. I like the stylistic clash. Makes sense to me. Davison Figueiredo and Cody Garbrandt. My only complaint here is I thought it should have been Figgy and Petr Yan, but I don't mind this fight either. I think Cody deserves it. He's been a champion. He's coming off a good performance. I like it. The one that I think is really causing the stir is Jessica Andrade and Marina Rodriguez. I don't mind this fight. Two relatively exciting women's fighters. Jessica Andrade is coming off that beating of Mackenzie Dern, beat the brakes off Mackenzie Dern, and Marina Rodriguez butchered Michelle Waterson, finished her. I like the fight. Is it great? No, but it's an early prelim. I don't mind it. And Zhang Weili versus Yan Xiaonan, another fight where I think it's good. It's not amazing, but two Chinese women fighting for a title. That's a unique angle. I thought this could have been in China, but they needed some title fights here, and I guess a Chinese fight night was not a possibility, so why not? I like this fight. Two of the more exciting women's fighters. Zhang Weili is never in a boring fight, so I'm going to move on to the confusing ones. Bo Nickel and Cody Brundage. I don't want to see a fight where Bo Nickel is going in as the biggest favorite in UFC history. He's a 15-1 favorite. I want to see Bo Nickel tested, preferably against a name like Brad Tavares or Albert Duraev, someone that I don't know the outcome of the fight. No disrespect to Cody Brundage. If Cody Brundage pulls this off, this would be incredible, but I want to see Bo Nickel tested, move him up the rankings, and Holly Holm and Kayla Harrison. I understand why Kayla Harrison is on this card, why she got brought into the UFC. The women's bantamweight division is kind of a mess. But my confusion here, if Kayla doesn't make weight, I don't think Holly takes the fight. And you just wasted a spot on this card. So that's my main worry about that fight. And I'm going to go into what I think the biggest fan complaints are. The unrealistic expectations because of unrealistic promises. This is mostly because of Dana saying every fight on this card, you're going to have your jaw drop. It's going to be amazing. It's just unrealistic. They need fights. They need talent for the rest of the year. They can't all just put it on 300. I feel like that was a really unrealistic promise. Another thing I see is the resistance to the women's MMA on this card instead of the UFC 300 worthy fights. I know some women's MMA could be bad, but the women's MMA they have on this card isn't that bad. Matter of fact, it's pretty good. I like the Marina Rodriguez-Jessica Andrade fight. It's going to be an early prelim, so I don't mind the positioning of that fight. Kayla Harrison, Holly Holm, fair enough, but Yan Shannon, Zhang Wei Li, I feel like the biggest complaint about that is my next point. The hype for the fight announcements and then the letdowns from the delays. This is the fight that I think suffered from this the most. Dana said he was going to go announce this fight at 9 p.m., 11 p.m., nothing from him, and then they waited all this time, and then he drops Zhang Wei Li and Yan Shannon. That's where the big backlash happened. I thought that was pretty unfair to them, but I feel like that's where the biggest frustration lied with that fight. And the fact that UFC 299 is amazing. And I feel like they are trying to do this to give Sean O'Malley a strong undercard, to have that card sell a lot of pay-per-views. And there are some fights on there that are UFC 300 worthy. Michael Venom Page and Kevin Holland, that would have been a really good fight to add to this card. Gilbert Burns, Jack Della Maddalena, same thing. So, the possible main events, I feel like the most likely one is Israel Adesanya and Dricus du Plessis. Dricus called for Adesanya in the cage. It's a money fight. I'm sure the UFC wants to do it. Capitalize on this Africa versus Africa angle. I think this probably will be it. The only point is whether Dricus is healthy enough to fight. And if not, I do think they're going with Bilal and Leon Edwards, which that would cause an absolute storm of backlash. Understandably so. That would be really underwhelming for a main event, but I can see it. It's pretty realistic. The fight's right there. But I think the rabbit they can pull out of the hat is Alex Pereira and Israel Adesanya. Does Israel Adesanya deserve a title shot at 205? Absolutely not. But Pereira and Adesanya have their history. It's UFC 300 worthy. I wouldn't expect it, but it wouldn't be the most shocking thing ever, but Alex Pereira really doesn't have anyone to fight at the moment, so I could see that being the big surprise. And the fights I would like to add to the card, I think Manel Kape and Kai Kara France would be a really strong addition to the later prelims. They have the heat with each other. Kape had his fight canceled with Mateus Nicolau. They have the heat with City Kickboxing, Manel Kape does. So I think this would be a hilarious fight. Just have Manel Kape at the press conference, trash talking City Kickboxing. The other fight I think you can put on this card would be Cyril Gane and Alex Volkov. They have fought each other before, so it would be a rematch. Gane won by decision, but I think this fight makes sense. Cyril Gane needs to fight again to earn a title shot, and Alexander Volkov's coming off a win against Tai Tuivasa. 2 ranked heavyweights toward the top 5. I think this would be another solid fight in the prelims if you can book it, unless they want to save Cyril Gane for a France fight night. And my wishful thinking fight would be Khamzat Chimaev and Jared Cannonier. This is like a 1% chance of this happening, less even. Khamzat, I doubt would fight on this card, and Jared Cannonier, I don't think is cleared from his injury, but this fight needs to happen at some point. Hamzat needs to fight again before he gets a title shot. It is a 300 worthy fight, but that's my wishful thinking fight, which is why I don't think it's going to happen. So I would give this card at the moment a 7.5 out of 10. We obviously don't have the main event yet, which is going to be my key determining factor about whether I bump this card above an 8. At the moment, it's still good, but it's still missing that one big fight. Plus, I do think they have room for 2 more prelims. They're obviously going to shuffle the order around, but there's going to be more fights announced. This card's coming up pretty soon, so they kind of need to get on this. And I do think it's mostly competitive fights across the board, which is where I think this card shines. Other than Bo Nickel and Cody Brundage, I think this is a pretty interesting card in terms of competitiveness. If Kayla Harrison does make weight, I am interested to see how she deals with Holly Holm, but I don't think that's the most exciting fight on paper. But that's really all I have on this card at the moment. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts on the card, whether you disagree, agree, and thank you so much for watching.